Okay, what we have here is a 1978 International Loadstar 1600 with a 304 V8. The engine firing order and cylinder numbers are the same as a small block Chevy. And she suffered a little bit of an engine fire here a while back, and we got her all cleaned up. We got her running again, cleaned the carburetor out, cleaned the starter motor up, got an alternator on it, some belts, everything, basically all the belts and wiring burnt off the top of this thing. But we got her running again, and fuel lines burnt. The fuel line probably rubbed through, it probably caused the fire. But got new distributor cap, new wires, and once got her up and running, notice that she's a little rough. Was gonna set the timing on it, but I couldn't. I got timing light. Notice that I couldn't get a good pickup on number one cylinder. I think you set these off in number one. I don't know yet because I haven't gotten that far. I got her timed good enough to keep it running. But anyways, I was gonna check, see why it's running here on 6.5 or 7 cylinders, and first did a relative compression test, which wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't the worst for an old engine. I guess it was acceptable. A little weak on a couple cylinders, but it might come around yet as we run it for a while. Notice that while checking the primary on the ignition, I got pickup here on the trigger wire on the number one coil wire, and I got my other pickup on the coil wire. So I got my trigger on the number one plug wire and my pickup on the coil wire. And notice that that number one cylinder was missing, and the number two cylinder is barely present at all. A very short burn time on the plug, and kind of low energy, low spark line. So then I hooked up checked the primary side of the ignition just to get a little better idea what's going on here. Our coil actually is okay. I got the low amp probe around the 2 coil wires, or around the wires that supply the coil. One comes from the starter during cranking, and the other is supply from the ignition switch. And then got my trigger on the negative side of the coil, and we'll use that on number 2 channel on the negative side of the coil for checking for voltage, and we'll use that for our trigger. And here I already took a scope or a shot of the primary side, and what we'll notice here is, we'll go back a little bit, right there we can see we got, if you look at these firing lines, our coil ramp, current ramp, and our would be our dwell time, is that it's varying quite a bit from cylinder to cylinder. Here we see very short, and I believe this was number 2 cylinder, and then following number 2 of course is number 1 in the firing order back to the beginning. And if we look for number 1, we see that it's that we got a blank spot in here. We can make this just a little bit bigger here, get a few more cylinders on the screen. We can see that we got a blank spot there where I think number 1 should be. Everything else spaced pretty evenly, but what you notice is that there's a large variation in the amount of dwell time for the coil. The coil itself is okay. When there isn't enough dwell time there, we're okay. I mean, it is loading up. What we could do here is just adjust the points a little bit, because this is a points distributor system. But I think what I'm going to opt to do instead is see if I can get a pointless adaptation kit adapter to put in the distributor to try to get this ignition evened out a little bit. You can see here the variations in the dwell from the points, the time that the points are closed, from this cylinder to this cylinder, and that makes a pretty big difference in the amount of energy your coil is absorbing. So what this is a result of is just a wore distributor. It's either the distributor shaft is not centered, or the bushings are gone, or the bearings are gone, and that's making it lean in one direction, which, if you know how points work, if points run off a distributor, kind of like a cam on the distributor, to open and close. So what's happening is our lobes are not even and because the loads on the distributor shaft are not even, we're not getting an even distribution of energy into the coil to fire the plugs. So I'm just going to go fire this, turn the key back on here a minute. Go beast here. And I got my trigger here. Yeah, you can kind of hear it. It's not, doesn't sound too bad, but you can see she's a little rough. We'll fire this up again. We'll increase the, well, we'll just stop it here. See what's going on here. We're not getting a very good spark burn time on the spark. We got very short coil burn here. Let's go and shut this off again. And I think what we'll probably try and do is, I could close the gap on the, or I could adjust the points in a little bit to get a little longer dwell time. But as you see, some of these cylinders, our dwell really isn't terrible. So it's just a matter of the distributor shaft, of the points riding on the distributor shaft not being equal. The high points on the distributor shaft are not equal from cylinder to cylinder. So if I can, I'm going to try and get a pointless distributor adapter to put in there, and we'll see if that makes a difference or not. And when I do, I'll post up that video next to this one. So I guess that's about it. I just wanted to show the difference, why really everybody talks about having points under distributors being such a great thing. It's really, in today's world, the accuracy of having a mechanical system of opening and closing your coil just isn't good enough anymore. It's just not efficient to get good even burn times on all your cylinders. It's having wires and having mechanical points and all that sort of stuff. So the only other way to do this would be to actually have a magneto if you're going to go with a mechanical system of firing your coil. So I guess that's about it for now.